very, very quickly. So when it is put on objects, couches, table legs, hands, it can be very disgusting at first, but then it evaporates and it doesn't taste as bad. So they think, well, I still enjoy licking, so I'm going to keep licking. Versus if it tasted really gross, they're going to be like, oh no, I enjoy licking, but that is disgusting. And so again, for those of you who are just joining, we were having some technical difficulties. I am Krystal. This is my husband Eric. We're at the Dog Psychology and Training Center.
Hello.
We're doing live Q&A today, so if you have any questions, just post them below. And if you're not live, go ahead and post your questions anyways, and we'll be checking them for the next 48 hours to respond. So we're talking about teething repellents that can also help with dogs that lick, specifically company or guests. So bitter apple, Fooey. Those work really well, and those are kind of like the set it and forget it ways. The other way is to manually be there to interrupt your dog every time they lick, and so you can have their leash on and their collar, and I'd have their leash on regardless when you have new company over, because you cannot control your dog unless you have a leash. So they're much quicker, they're much more agile than us, and they can evade us very easily and make us look very silly. So keep a leash on them. You can have the leash in your hand. Anytime they try to lick, just give it a little tug and say no. And that usually works for most dogs. Not every dog's the same though, and not every dog learns the same. And
but make sure nobody's petting your dog while they're doing that.
What?
While they're licking. Because some of your guests are going to do that. They're going to walk in the door and your dog's going to be jumping and licking on them and doing all this stuff. They're going to be saying, oh, don't do that, don't do that. Oh, okay, I don't want you to lick. But you're telling them with your hand, this is fantastic, and everything you ever want is going to happen when you do this. So make sure you're not sending mixed signals to your dog. Because even if you're doing, leash tugs and you're telling them no, if all your company's going, well, I'd take kisses over leash tugs any day. Just saying.
Yeah, it's very hard to train your guests though, and you'll often hear them say, well, I don't mind. But if you as the pet owner do mind, then it's your responsibility to keep that level. So using a leash can definitely help with interrupting them. You can also use the leash to prevent them from jumping. If they jump, you can kind of tug it back and say no, off. What was the other one? Barking, same thing. As they go to bark, you can give it a little tug to the side to interrupt them, because as they're barking, hey, I'm here, and then you tug them, they're like, what? Hey, thanks for stopping barking. I really appreciate it. And you can reward them for that. So interrupters are really important to get your dog to refocus on you so they can hear what you're trying to tell them. One of my favorite tools though, especially with company, because like Eric said, if they're petting them while their dog's doing these naughty behaviors, your dog's going to want that reward of being petted over that interrupter or that disgusting taste of the bitter apple to know to stop. So one of my favorite tools is the remote trainer, because you can literally push a button and your company has no idea what's going on to say, oh, I don't mind. So what it does, and it should never be used to cause pain or be scary to your dog, it's a communication tool. So remember we talked about interrupters. Your voice can sometimes be an interrupter, sometimes a leash tug, so can an e-collar. And so the e-collar, the way it's an interrupter is that it gives them touch, a little tickle on their neck. So when they're doing something, this little tickle can communicate to them to stop doing those naughty behaviors. And what it does, because it's an interrupter, is they start jumping, you push this button, and you just slowly dial up to whatever level they feel to stop and look back like, what was that? And you can be like, oh, thank you so much for putting all 4 feet on the ground. What a good boy. And then if he jumps again, same thing, push that button. He's going to step down and look around like, what just happened? And every time he does it, he's going to get this little tickle on his neck. And I always joke it's kind of like his guardian angel saying, no, that's not good. No, you shouldn't be doing that, to help your dog learn that was right from wrong. Because company, you don't want to be rude to your company and be like, don't touch my dog when he's jumping. But at the same time, it's very stressful when you're trying to have a dog remember their manners and they're being rewarded or encouraged to do those naughty behaviors that you don't like them doing. So the remote trainer takes all of that emotional turmoil out of you and your guest relationship, because you're just silently communicating to your dog with a push of a button, and your company and your dog doesn't even know it's coming from you. They just think that little guardian angel's on their shoulder saying,
So should everyone listening just go out and get an e-collar?
Yeah, good point. So with the remote trainer, it's a very, I don't know how I want to say it. It's not a commonly understood tool. So for your dog, it's kind of like speaking a foreign language to your dog. And if you just slap it on there and start pushing buttons, it's going to be startling and fearful for your dog because they don't know what you're saying. So it's really important to either watch lots of YouTube videos, because they're out there, and learn how to properly condition your dog to the e-collar so they understand the language that the e-collar is talking. So there's no fear, it's just this calm communication and they totally get it. Or seek a professional who is skilled with the e-collars to properly train your dogs on how to respond or understand a remote trainer. Because if you just start slapping it on your dog, then that is going to be not good. It's going to be abusive because your dog is going to be scared and confused and not fair. And so the other thing, too, to make a point of, I know a lot of people get so angry at their dogs for doing naughty behaviors, which I get it. Licking's my biggest pet peeve, and we have a dog that's a licker, and she does doggy drive-by licks, where I've taught her not to lick on me, but she'll be walking by, and then she'll turn her head, and then just keep on walking. I'm like, she just licked me, that little stinker. Not that I would get that angry, but I understand that dogs can cause you lots of anger when they're doing naughty things, and so it's not fair to go buy so we only use this very specific remote trainer by e-collar technologies, the Easy Educator, or also the Mini Educator. We just prefer the Easy because it's more streamlined for everyday use. But some people go to PetSmart or buy something really cheap off of Amazon that has like 10 levels, and level 1 is like really high and not good. It feels really painful. So level 10 is like unbearably painful, and that's not fair to slap that on your dog and just nail them for something really bad, because they didn't understand what you were communicating to them, to know what they did wrong. It'd be like speaking
French to your 3-year-old who's never learned French and then being upset that they don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Right.
So that's just going to cause all kinds of confusion and distrust there.
Mm-hmm. So not fair to use the e-collar as like a high-level punishment without properly communicating, because the e-collar is just an extension of your voice. You speak to your dog, it doesn't mean your voice is bad, and you sometimes yell at your dog because they're doing something really naughty. That doesn't mean your voice is bad. It just means that action that they were doing is bad. So we don't want the e-collar to be bad. It can be if it's used improperly, but it's an extension of you. So if you're always yelling and screaming at your dog, that's bad and it's abusive. But if you're talking to your dog 99% of the time, and there's 1% of the time that your dog is doing something bad, you have to raise your voice and be like, stop, no! That's okay. Your dog's not afraid of you. It was afraid of that action that just happened that caused that reaction from you. So the same thing with the e-collar. It needs to be that extension of you. It should never be something that's fearful or frightening. But for jumping with company, barking, and licking, it's literally 3 in 1. So as your dog starts to lick, you just push the button until they stop, and they stop. Oh, what a good boy. And your company can be petting them this whole time. Your company doesn't have to stop petting them. If they start to jump, you just push the button. If they start to bark, you just push the button. And so it really helps them clearly, because the communication is right there on their neck. They're getting this tickle every time something's bad, versus if you're using the leash and you set it down for a second to go get a glass of coffee, and you come back, a cup of coffee, because nobody puts it in a glass. And you come back and your dog's jumping on your company, and then you pull the leash off. Well, they just got away with it, so they're going to think, well, maybe sometimes it's allowed. Versus the remote trainer, you can leave the room, be peeking around the corner, and if your dog starts to jump, you just push a button from the kitchen. They get it. It's very consistent, and so that is fair because it's just and it's consistent. So that would be the easiest solution, but I understand that everybody has the funds to go out and buy an e-collar or has the time to learn how to use it on your own. So my other tools is whatever can get their attention. So, you know, old school, like you used to get like a jar of coins and you would shake it and rattle it around, and that's just an interrupter. That's all we want. When we say no, your dog's not hearing you because they're so involved in whatever's going on around them. So we need something that gets their attention back to you so you can repeat, no, off, or no, enough, whatever the terminology is going to be that you're going to use. So what can those interrupters be? A jar of coins still works to get their attention. You could use the little air cans that you use to clean your computers or your keyboards. You know, don't spritz it at the dog. You don't want him to see like the correction and interrupters. So, you know, the jar of coins, the air can, you just want him to be at your side or kind of behind your back as you shake them. So he doesn't know that that's the tool that's getting his attention. We want it to be you because we want him to listen to you, not the can of coins, not the air can. But every time he does something, you say no, enough. He doesn't listen. Psh, no, enough. To repeat that. Air horns. They're more obnoxious, but they do get a dog's attention. So don't for like 20 seconds because your guests will leave. But just a burp, burp, every time they do something bad is enough to interrupt that thought process of lick, 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 lick. What? Oh, hey, what a good boy for not licking right now. And rewarding that split second of good behavior. Lots of interrupters you can have, but the one that everybody has is a leash. And just little tugs. No, enough, no, enough, no, off. Whatever it is to get them to be respectful of your company. Did I forget anything on that one?
I don't know. I was just thinking, this past week I saw this little video clip that Morgan Freeman, he said, if you want your voice to be deeper, to yawn a lot. Do you know that?
No.
That's interesting. I'm sorry, that's where my mind was for part of that. But
is my voice too squeaky?
No.
Is that what this came from?
Because I yawned, so then my mind went there. So our other question was resource guarding with a new dog in the house. Let's talk about this thing.
With toys. I doubt the new dog is the cause for this. I think it's been going on the whole time. You just never had an outlet to see the behavior. So for this, there's several different things you can do. And you know your dog best to know what's going to work. But I'll throw out a couple different scenarios. And it really is dependent on the dog. So one scenario is if he or she is growling or kind of hovering over the toy, I would take it away. So I would use her leash to pull her back away from the toy, so you're not taking it from her mouth, because that might get you a little bit of displaced aggression where she might snap or bite at you. Take it away and put it up for a day or two, and as you put it back out, I would give it to the other dog. Like, you were disrespectful of this toy, I'm going to share it with the other dog that you're being a jerk to. And let me step back a few steps. What is resource guarding? That's what the dog training term is for growling over toys and foods and bones. It's called resource guarding. So what is resource guarding? It's a dog who is claiming this object as his or hers. But who bought this object? Who went to the store? Who paid with their own money? Who brought it home in a bag? Whose toy is it? You, the dog owner, right? It's your toy, your house, your things, your belongings. Even though you bought it for this dog, it's your toy. And so when you have this mindset of this is actually mine and you're disrespecting my property, that's not fair. And so one of the analogies I use for my kids, because they're 5, 4, and 2, I can count, is when they fight over toys or things outside, like we'll go to a park and they're fighting over the slide. No, I was here first. No, I was here first. No, I was here first. It doesn't matter. Why? Because it's God's. Everything in the world is God's. He gave everything for us to share. So when you think of it in that way, for my toddlers, it's not your slide. It's not Raider's slide. It doesn't matter who got here first. It's God's slide. That really puts it into a perspective of, oh, okay. And so the same for your dog's toys. You can go with the whole it's God's toy, or you can go with it's my toy, but it's not your dog's toy, and that's what's important. So the one scenario is to call your dog off of it. If you're going to misuse or mistreat or be stingy or grumpy about your toy, I'm taking it away. It's mine. The other thing that we've done with some dogs that were more passive in personality, meaning they weren't really aggressive, that they would want to hurt another dog or have, real intent behind their growly, snappy actions, was if they were going to act like that, we would take it away. Again, pull your dog away from it, make them drop it before you reach for it so it's not in their mouth or by their mouth. And then we'd give it to the other dog right in front of the dog. Like, if you're going to be a jerk about this toy, guess what? The other dog gets it. And so think about dogs. They have the average IQ of like a 2 to 3-year-old toddler. And so those toddlers, human toddlers, are capable of understanding sharing, if trained well. Are capable of understanding sharing and taking turns and being respectful, maybe playing together. And so the same is true for your dog. They're capable of understanding sharing and taking turns, and maybe even using it at the same time, but they have to be trained or taught those behaviors, because every person and every dog has an innate selfish desire. That's just who we are. So we have to teach what sharing is, what kindness is. So that's 2 ways. So taking it away and give it to the other dog right in front of them, or taking it away for a day or two if your dog's going to be more aggressive about the other dog getting it right in front of them. Taking it away for a day or two, and then when you reintroduce it, you introduce it to the other dog. Have a leash on your dog this entire process. Yes. So if your dog tries to go steal it from the other dog, you can hold them back with that leash and say, no, they get it for at least 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, you know your dog better than anyone, so I mean, use discretion when deciding on an approach for this, because for some dogs, as she mentioned, that would be a very inappropriate way to
if your dog is aggressive and has tried to bite or attack another dog, this is not the best way to do that. And for those dogs, no toys, no bones in the house, period. If they want to chew on a bone or a toy, put them together, you got a tone. If they want to chew on a bone or a toy, they each go into their own cages, and you close that door, and they can have those bones in their cages away from each other. So don't put the cages right beside each other where they can be growly about it. But I think what we're talking about is a dog who's still kind of a puppy, younger, and still just testing those waters of what's allowed and what's not allowed. So you know your dog, like Eric said, don't put your dog or yourself in a jeopardizing position because of what we said would work for a type of personality of dog. Every dog's an individual. Every dog has their own quirks and personalities and strengths. Some are pushy, some are passive. So for passive dogs, the first two would be a really good combination. For those dogs that have intent or are really grumpy and have taken action or will take action to bite or nip at another dog,
seek help.
yeah. Take all the toys out of the house and don't reintroduce them until you have sought the help of a professional. So that'll definitely make sure everyone stays safe. And for those dogs that can't share because they're aggressive, that doesn't mean you'll never have toys in your house again. Like, seek the help of a professional, and they'll tell you, like, oh yeah, we can totally get your dog, to share. Or, no, your dog is going to be kind of grumpy like this forever because that's just who your dog is. But it gives you that, I guess, closure. Is there hope? Is there not hope? Can we fix it? Can we not? And then they should cover, management protocols to help prevent any type of altercations over it. But for a dog that's a puppy, or a younger dog that's not a dominant dog or aggressive dog, taking that toy away, calling your dog away from it first. Leave it, call him away, take that toy, give it to the other dog, and then keeping the bully dog, the bratty dog, away for 5 to 10 minutes while the other dog gets to chew on it and enjoy it, and then letting your dog go over with the leash on, so you're watching them, making sure that leash is loose. We don't want a tight leash to tell them that something's wrong, but making sure they're okay about asking for it back. So if they go over and they start growling about it, you call them back away. Nope, you're not going to get that toy either. And so the purpose of this exercise is to get them to the point where they kind of surrender to, okay, it's not my toy. I guess I'll get it when somebody's ready to share it with me. Hey, that is so sweet of you. Let's go see if that dog's ready to share that toy. Just like we would with a child, because they have the IQ of a toddler. So similar, kind of a mom spiel there, but yeah. So those are the only questions, I think. Those were the 3 questions, but 2 were exactly the same. So that was awesome that we could nail those together. So if you have any questions about the answers we've given you to those questions, post in the comments. If you have new questions, post in the comments. If you haven't yet, subscribe. And we hope to see you next week, next Thursday at 12 p.m. I don't have enough fingers for that. At 12 p.m., we're going to go live again to answer more questions. So we'll see you guys next week.